Hello everyone, warm welcome to Regulatory Bodies YouTube channel by Testbook. My name is Madhav Sir. I welcome you all in the next session of Finance Current Affairs. And I'm pretty sure you are going to enjoy the discussion. So before we start the discussion, can you please let me know in the comment section that I'm audible, visible, everything is fine, we are good to go, so that we can begin the discussion without any further delay. Before we start the discussion, last session, which was ought to be conducted on Saturday, was not conducted due to some technical issue. But yes, I have included the same dates news in today's session, and slowly we will be completing the entire backlogs. I'll try my level best to complete the entire backlog in this week itself. Is it fine, guys? Is it fine? Are we good to go? Just give me yes, sir. Is it fine? Are we good to go? Just give me yes, sir, so that we can begin the discussion quickly. And if you haven't shared the session with your friends, then I would request you quickly copy the link of this session, share it with your friends, so that more and more students, they can join us live and they are aware that yes, this session is live. I'm also doing the same. Let's quickly copy the link of this session and share it with our friends. Once it is done, give me yes, sir, so that we can begin the discussion without any further delay. Okay, so I'll start my discussion with the first news, but before that, if you want to download the PDF of this particular session, the PDF of this particular session is available on my Telegram channel, and I am pretty sure that you must have joined this session. If not yet, then I would request you to join it so that you can download the PDF appropriately on regular basis. Moving on to the first news of the day. But before I start the news discussion, I have a question for you all, and the question along with the information for you all, that is, I hope you all have watched the session on monetary policy which has been presented for June 2025, because fine, chalo. So what I was discussing with you all is, I was saying that in the monetary policy discussion itself, there was one update which is really very important, and I would like to discuss that update with you all. And the update is related to cash reserve ratio. We all know that cash reserve ratio, it is basically the part of liquidity reserve ratio. And if someone asks me, so how you define or how you understand the term liquidity reserve ratio, तो मेरा आंसर क्या होगा? जब भी कभी बैंक के पास you and me, we reach to deposit our funds, we have two options. Either we can make our deposits in the current account or saving accounts, or we can deposit our funds in the term deposit, that is FD or RD. So the total deposit on the bank is obviously bank's liability. This is basically termed as gross demand and time liability. Now this is the total deposit which has been accepted by the bank. But out of this total deposit, bank is not allowed to provide the entire deposit or loan, because in this deposit, there is a deposit of interbanks as well. We call it as interbank account deposits. So interbank account deposit basically means एक बैंक जब दूसरे बैंक में एक deposit account maintain करता है. For example, I'm saying SBI. So SBI is a bank which is providing account services to you and me, to the entire public, to the entities, to the companies. Similarly, SBI allows ICICI to open up a deposit account in SBI, and we call this account as interbank account, which means one bank is holding a deposit account in the another bank, and this account is basically opened in order to make interbank transaction settlement easy. In order to make the interbank transaction settlement easier. So what is this all about? So simple सी बात है, अगर मान लो SBI के ATM से किसी ICICI के कस्टमर ने कैश विड्रॉ किया, SBI के ATM से किसी ICICI के कस्टमर ने कैश विड्रॉ किया, या फिर ICICI के कस्टमर ने SBI के ATM से कैश विड्रॉ किया, तो एंड ऑफ द डे ये कैश सेटलमेंट करने के लिए it's better to transfer the hard cash into the ICICI account, and ICICI, being the owner of this account, can withdraw the funds with the help of check or make the transfers whenever required. तो इससे फायदा क्या हुआ? इससे फायदा ये हुआ कि सर जो इंटर बैंक ट्रांजेक्शंस हैं उन्हें सेटल डाउन करना इजी हो गया, लेकिन आरबीआई ने क्या कहा? इन ऑर्डर टू अवॉइड एनी काइंड ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, RBI came up with a statement, and the statement is, sir, these interbank account deposits which are maintained with the sole motive of interbank transaction settlements, so these deposits they will not attract any kind of rate of interest, as well as these deposits will not be allowed by the bank to provide on loan. So if bank is not allowed to provide this amount on loan because it is highly volatile in nature, in that particular case, out of the total deposits, interbank account deposits are subtracted. So once we subtract the interbank account deposit, this is the amount which can be utilized by the bank with the motive of earning profit. So when we subtract interbank account deposits from the gross demand and time liability, we reach to a term that is known as NDTL. So next time if someone asks you, it's going to be really very easy for you all to define NDTL. So what is NDTL? So NDTL stands for net demand time liability. NDTL stands for net demand time liability, which basically means the difference between the gross demand time liability excluding the deposits with the other banks, we call it as deposit with the other bank, or we can even call it as interbank deposits. ठीक है जी, clear हो गया? I guess there is no issue in understanding this part. Once it is clear, now I will be moving on to the next point. The next point says, out of this NDTL, I'll just remove my image. Out of this NDTL, certain amount is maintained in the form of reserve. We call it as liquidity reserve ratio, and rest of the amount can be provided on loan by the bank. We can call it as lending capacity. So this liquidity reserve ratio is further categorized into two categories. One we call it as CRR, and other one we call it as SLR. CRR basically means certain percentage of NDTL which is maintained in the form of cash, and it is kept with RBI, against which RBI is paying no return. To the bank, that is known as CRR. In case of SLR, certain percentage of NDTL is maintained either in the form of cash, gold or government security, and these reserves are kept with bank itself. We call it as what? SLR. Now, RBI can change the CRR or SLR value, because if RBI changes the CRR and SLR value, it will result in change in lending capacity. For example, if RBI has reduced CRR from 4% to 3%, it means if SLR was earlier 18% and today also it is 18%. So earlier the lending capacity was what? Sir, earlier the lending capacity was 78% of NDTL, but now the lending capacity has increased to 79%. If the lending capacity of the bank increases, that means bank will provide more loan to the public. If bank is providing more loan to the public, it will result in increase in money supply in the market, and if the money supply in the market increases, it will result in increase in demand. And we know that the inflation rates are pretty low in the country. Our growth rates are pretty low this time, and in order to boost the growth, in order to push the economic growth of the economy, this initiative has been taken by RBI. So what is the news? The news says, as per the latest monetary policy, CRR, that is cash reserve ratio, of all the banks has been reduced by 100 basis point, which means it has been reduced by 1%, but it won't be reduced in one go. It ऐसा नहीं है कि एक ही झटके में इसे हटा देंगे, नहीं sir, it will be reduced in 4 equal tranches, and these 4 equal tranches will be of what value? Sir, it will be of 25 basis point. So धीरे धीरे करते करते it will be reduced to what percent? Sir, it will be reduced to 3%. Up currently CRR, it is 4% today. It will be reduced to 3.75% on which date? Sir, it will be reduced to 3.75% on 6th of September. Then it will be reduced to 3.5% on 4th of September, sorry, 4th of October. Then it will be reduced to 3.25% on 1st of November, and lastly it will be reduced to 3% by or on the date, that is 29th of November 2025. So these are the 4 dates which you need to remember, and in these 4 installments you can use, or in these 4 stages, CRR will be reduced by 100 basis point from 4% to 3%. I hope the first thing on in this particular news is why CRR is reduced, or what is the impact of, decrease in, CRR? What is the impact of decrease in CRR? Whenever the CRR decreases, it will result in decrease in liquidity reserve ratio value. The moment liquidity reserve ratio value decreases, it will result in increase in money supply in the market. Due to increase in money supply, demand will increase and inflation rates will start increasing. Is this point clear, everyone? Is this point clear? If it is clear till this point, just give me yes, sir. Say yes or no. Okay. Now moving on to the next point, which is really very important, जिसके लिए पूरी की पूरी न्यूज मैं आपके सामने लाया हूं. When RBI governor Sanjay Malhotra ji, not Shaktikanta Das. So Sanjay Malhotra ji, when he was giving the speech, or he was giving the statement regarding the monetary policy, during his statement he talked about a segment which is really very important, and the segment name is liquidity and financial market conditions. So while discussing the liquidity and financial market conditions, he has pointed out 3 important parts, out of which one important part is CRR, which we have just discussed. लेकिन उसके अलावा 2 और चीजों को उन्होंने point out किया, which I would love to discuss with you, which is going to be really very important. So according to him, he gave the data that since January 2025, RBI has increased the liquidity in the market, and RBI has infused 9.5 lakh crore rupees into the market. I hope आपको याद होगा, December 2024 में इंडिया में we have noticed liquidity crisis in the banking sector. Banking sector में liquidity crisis देखने को मिले, which means banks, they were facing cash issues, liquidity issues, and banks were also facing the issues in order to process their withdrawals. So in this particular scenario, RBI came in the picture, और RBI ने कहा, don't worry, I will be increasing the liquidity in the market. Now the biggest question is how RBI can increase the liquidity in the market. Sir, RBI can increase the liquidity in the market through different methods. One of the tool which is the part of monetary policy, that is known as open market operation. So open market operation is a tool in which RBI sell or purchase government securities from the public in order to increase or decrease the liquidity in the market, or in order to inject or evacuate liquidity from the market. Now in this case, when liquidity is low, that means cash flow is low. In that particular case, what did RBI do? Sir, RBI decided to purchase the government securities from the public. The moment government security was purchased by RBI from the public, it has resulted in increase in flow of money supply in the market. So what was the total value of open market operation which has been performed by RBI? Sir, RBI has performed a total purchase of 5.2 lakh crore rupees of government securities from the market in order to increase the liquidity in the market. Not only this, in order to inject In order to inject liquidity in the market, RBI came up with VRR under the variable repo rate. If I talk about this variable repo rate, RBI has issued the loan. RBI has issued the loan to the banks against the government securities, and under the variable repo rate, the loan is not only issued for 24 hours, it is even issued for more than 24 hours. We call it as variable repo rate. And against variable repo rate operation, even till there was a clause of 56 days, that means for 56 days also the loan was given under variable repo rate. And if I talk about the value of this loan which has been given, or the amount which has been introduced in the market through this tool, is 2 lakh crore rupees. Not only this, RBI has went into US dollars. RBI has went into US dollar INR by sell swap agreements. So under this buy sell swap agreement, what RBI has done, RBI has purchased the US dollars from the public or from the market, and against these US dollars, RBI has increased the INR in the market. And this purchase of US dollar is done under what? So the purchase of US dollar is done under a swap agreement where the time period is defined when RBI will be repurchasing the same. For example, this swap is done for 6 months, or maybe the swap is done for 3 years, or maybe the swap is done for 5 years as per the requirement. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गया, यहां तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. अब अगर कोई पूछे कि USD INR बाय सेल स्वैप अग्रीमेंट से RBI ने कितना पैसा मार्केट में जनरेट किया है, कितनी लिक्विडिटी को इंक्रीज किया, द आंसर इज सर 2.2 लाख करोड़ रुपीस. 2.2 लाख करोड़ रुपीस. अगर आप इन सबको ऐड करेंगे, दिस टोटल विल कम आउट टू बी 9.5 लाख करोड़ रुपीस. दिस इज द वैल्यू which has been increased by RBI. This is the value which has been increased by RBI in the market. Is it clear? Is this point clear, guys? If it is clear, just give me yes, sir. If this point is clear, just give me yes, sir, so that I can move ahead. ठीक है जी, बढ़े आगे. Is it fine? Shall we move ahead? Okay. All this data has been mentioned over here. So buy sell swap injected 2.1 and 2.2 lakh crore respectively for the same period. अब इस सारे इंजेक्शन के बाद रिजल्ट क्या हुआ? सर इस सारे इंजेक्शन के बाद रिजल्ट ये हुआ कि मार्केट में लिक्विडिटी इश्यूज रिजॉल्व हुए, मार्केट में लिक्विडिटी इंक्रीज हुई, एंड ड्यू टू द इंक्रीज इन लिक्विडिटी व्हेन RBI again offered VRR, that is RBI again announced कि if banks they want loan against repo rate, then they can come up and participate in the auction, and here the lending will be done by RBI for more than 24 hours under the variable repo rates. I hope you remember this. But the result was, what was the result? So the result of this particular announcement was the response for this auction was decreased, and the bid cover ratio was only 0.16. What is this 0.16 bid cover ratio? बड़ा आसान है. इसका मतलब ये है कि अगर RBI ने अनाउंस किया that I am ready to provide loan to the public at variable repo rate, and RBI is ready to provide loan of value 1 lakh crore rupees, and this loan will be provided against government securities. In order to borrow this loan, demand of the public, demand of the banks, or I would say the applications which have been registered for the demand, for the requirement of this loan is just 0.16. What is 0.16? It means 1 लाख करोड़ के बदले में जो ऑक्शन में पार्टिसिपेट करने के लिए बैंक्स ने एप्लीकेशंस फिल की, दे शो देयर डिमांड, दे रेज देयर डिमांड, was only 0.16%, या आप ये कहो 16, आप ये कहो 16%, या फिर आप इसे कह सकते हैं क्या, only 16,000 crore rupees. What sir, only 16,000 crore rupees. तो सिर्फ 16,000 करोड़ रुपए की डिमांड निकल कर आई सामने, किसके अगेंस्ट सर, अगेंस्ट दी सप्लाई विच वाज सप्लाई फॉर विच आरबीआई वाज रेडी, दैट वाज 1 लाख करोड़ रुपीस. तो इससे क्लियर हो गया कि हाँ सर, अब उतनी ज्यादा डिमांड नहीं बची. क्यों नहीं डिमांड बची? क्योंकि ऑलरेडी मार्केट में लिक्विडिटी है, और अगर ऑलरेडी मार्केट में लिक्विडिटी है तो भैया जरूरत क्या, जरूरत नहीं है. तो बैंक्स दे विल नॉट पार्टिसिपेट इन ऑर्डर टू बोरो द फंड्स फ्रॉम आरबीआई बिकॉज बैंक्स दे आर ऑलरेडी हैविंग द डिजायर्ड फंड्स विद देम. Second point is high SDF balance. What is this SDF? Sir, SDF basically means when bank park its surplus funds, when bank park its surplus funds with RBI, against which RBI pay rate of interest to the bank, and this rate of interest is known as SDF. This rate of interest can also be compared with reverse repo rate, but what is the difference? In case of reverse repo rate, bank park its surplus funds with RBI and RBI pay reverse repo rate along with government security under the repo agreement, which means on the repayment of principal as well as interest by RBI, bank will sell or bank will return the same government securities to RBI which were presented under the repo agreement. Now, RBI says that, now RBI comes up with a statement कि भैया अगर आप अपना surplus funds मेरे पास रखेंगे, against that surplus funds I will offer you two types of rate of interest. One, I will offer you reverse repo rate which is only 3.35%, and other one I'll offer you SDF, that is standing deposit facility, which has now reduced to 5.5%. say yes or no. Which has now reduced to 5.25%, which has now reduced to 5.25%. Now you must be wondering कि सर इन दोनों में इतना बड़ा गैप क्यों है? दोनों ही केसेस में रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट कौन पे करेगा? आरबीआई पे करेगा. दोनों ही केसेस में रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट आरबीआई किसे पे करेगा? बैंक को. दोनों ही केसेस में आरबीआई बैंक से क्या एक्सेप्ट कर रहा है? सरप्लस फंड्स. देन व्हाई दीज रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट आर डिफरेंट? सर, दीज रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट आर डिफरेंट बिकॉज ऑफ अ क्वाइट ऑब्वियस रीजन. द ऑब्वियस रीजन इज इफ आरबीआई is giving you the government security as collateral, that in that particular case risk is pretty low, and if risk is low, returns will be low. On the other side, if RBI has given no government security as collateral, and if in near future RBI do not pay back your funds, then you will be, as a bank, you will be facing the credit risk. But if you are ready to take that risk, RBI is ready to give you higher rate of interest, which is 5.25%. अब यहाँ पर पॉइंट क्या है सर? पॉइंट ये है कि अगर हम अप्रैल मई में देखें, अप्रैल और मई मंथ में देखें, तो जो डेली बैलेंस था आरबीआई का, जो डेली बैलेंस था बैंक्स का आरबीआई में, दैट वाज अराउंड 2 लाख करोड़ रुपीस, व्हिच मींस बैंक्स दे आर ऑलरेडी हैविंग अ सरप्लस ऑफ over 2 lakh crore rupees which they are parking on daily basis with RBI, against which rate? So that is standing deposit facility rate. बोलो समझ आया? बोलो समझ आया? If it is clear, give me yes sir, so that I can move ahead. If it is clear, just give me yes sir, so that I can move ahead. If you haven't liked the session yet, I would request you, do hit the like button. And if you have any doubt, you may ask please. Now I will be moving to the next part of the same news. I'm not saying that we are moving to the next news, I'm moving to the next part of the same news. The next part of the same news is, this is the first point in the governor's speech or governor's statement on 6th of June. The second point was related to a term that is known as WACR. How many of you are aware of this term, weighted average call rate? If you're not aware, I'll quickly let you know what it basically means. So it basically means, let's say there is a bank B1, there is a bank B2. Bank B1 is having surplus funds, and bank B1 has parked its surplus funds with RBI. Bank B1 has parked its surplus funds with RBI. Against these surplus funds, RBI is paying SDF as return, which is, let's suppose as of today, it is 5.25%. On the other side, if bank is borrowing from RBI, then RBI will charge minimum repo rate and maximum charge will be MSF. Repo rate is right now 5.5% and MSF is 5.75%. So I can easily say that RBI is borrowing from bank, RBI is lending to bank, and in this entire deal, RBI is earning a profit. RBI is earning a profit or a net interest margin of 0.25 to 0.50%. Secondly, in case you want to borrow from RBI, in that particular case, if you are a bank and you want to borrow from RBI, then there is a certain limit. If you want to borrow from RBI against repo rate, if you are borrowing from RBI against repo rate, then there is a certain limit, and if that limit is consumed, then you will be borrowing at higher rate of interest, that is MSF. And again, MSF is offered up to a particular limit, that is 2% of NDTL. And once this 2% of NDTL is consumed, then what? So in order to provide, or in order to come up with this particular solution, what happens is, so banks, they participate in a market, we call it as a call market. What is a call market? So call money market is a place where one bank holding the surplus funds will provide loan to the other bank, which is looking forward for loan, and this lending is done without collateral. Only and only an agreement is signed, and that agreement we call it as call money bill. This agreement we call it as call money bill, which is valid for 24 hours. That means banks, they can borrow from each other for 24 hours, and even if they want to borrow for more than 24 hours, we call it as notice money bill. So this market is known as call money market, and the rate of this particular market is known as, and the rate which is charged in this particular market is known as what? So the rate charged in this particular market is known as call rate. But this call rate is volatile in nature. It is going to change every day depending upon the demand and supply. And due to the change in demand and supply, this call rate will also change. So this volatile call rate, in order to obtain a calculatable or presentable value, we use a word that is WACR, which stands for weighted average call rate. So weighted average call rate basically means the average call rate which is calculated on the basis of amount of borrowing taken on that respective date, amount of demand as well as supply on that respective date is taken into consideration. Now, if I talk about the corridor for WACR, so the corridor for WACR is SDF, that is standing deposit facility, is the minimum rate, because if I am a bank and I want to provide loan, or I want to distribute, I would say I'm ready to circulate, I'm ready to park my surplus funds, I will be parking my surplus funds at minimum standing deposit facility, because I know agar is pe aap nahi loge as a bank, then no worries, RBI will accept it. So I'm not ready to provide you loan below this. And generally the higher rate or the highest rate is close to MSF, and on the basis of which this call rate fluctuates in this particular range, and RBI want that this WACR, it should be close to repo rate. So if WACR is close to repo rate, which shows that the market is doing well, liquidity in the market is appropriate, or I would say RBI's monetary policies are operating in a better manner. So this is known as WACR. Story samajh aayi? Now I'll show you what is the current scenario. So reflecting the improvement in the liquidity conditions. So the moment liquidity conditions improved, undoubtedly demand for short term funds डिक्रीजेस, क्योंकि पहले बैंक्स को पैसे की जरूरत थी, तो इस मार्केट में, कॉल मनी मार्केट में बहुत ज्यादा डिमांड थी, और जब डिमांड ज्यादा होगी तो ऑब्वियसली प्राइसेस विल बी हाई. एंड व्हाट इज द प्राइस ओवर हियर? सो द प्राइस ओवर हियर इज कॉल रेट. तो कॉल रेट क्या होगा? बहुत ज्यादा होगा. और ऑब्वियसली कॉल रेट को कंपेयर किससे करेंगे? सर रेपो रेट से करेंगे. कॉल रेट को कंपेयर किससे करेंगे? रेपो रेट से करेंगे. सो द ऑपरेटिंग टारगेट ऑफ मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी traded at the lower end of the LAF corridor since last policy. तो इसमें क्या कहा जा रहा है? The weighted average call rate, the operating target of monetary policy. तो weighted average call rate को कहा जाता है operating target of monetary policy because RBI consider WACR as its target. If WACR का fluctuation काफी ज्यादा है with respect to repo rate, that means market sentiments are different in comparison to the policies which are framed by RBI. So RBI will try to align it as close as it can be to WACR. So as per this particular data, you have this entire thing to cover. So please pay attention. WACR on an average traded 16 basis point below the policy rate during April to June. तो इसका मतलब April to June में अगर हम बात करें रेपो रेट की, तो ये रेपो रेट था, उससे कुछ पॉइंट नीचे क्या रहा? WACR रहा. कुछ पॉइंट नीचे रहा WACR. लेकिन अगर आप फरवरी मार्च की बात करेंगे, दिस इज अप्रैल टू जून, बट इफ यू टॉक अबाउट फरवरी टू मार्च व्हेन लिक्विडिटी वाज pretty low in the banking sector, in those days demand was high. During high demand, WACR was higher than repo rate. So it was 6 basis point above. It was 6 basis point above repo rate. But हम चाहते क्या है? Till June 2025, RBI has already cut down the repo rate by 50 basis point, and due to this cut of repo rate by 50 basis point, it has moderated. That means it has reduced the WACR by 70 basis point, which is a positive scenario for an economy. Which is a positive scenario for an economy. The next point is the weighted average lending rate. This is something different. Weighted average lending rate. So what is this weighted average lending rate? So I'm talking about the loan given by the bank. What I'm talking about? I'm talking about the loan given by the bank. So loan given by the bank on fresh loan, the weighted average lending rates, has decreased by 6 basis point, and the existing loans, for the existing loans, the weighted average lending rate has decreased by 17 basis point. What is this? So this is the transmission of monetary policy. What is this? So this is the transmission of monetary policy. अब RBI ने repo rate को कम किया. Repo rate के कम होने से we were expecting that lending rates will decrease, but जितना आप easy expect कर रहे हैं कि अगर RBI ने repo rate 0.5% कम कर दिया तो lending rate भी 0.5% कम होगा, that is not true. That is not true. The transmission is all around different, and this transmission is dependent on MCLR, which is a method used by banks to decide the lending rates. Obviously, the new loans, they are given on the latest method, that is EBLR, but the existing loans are still prevailing on MCLR, and this is what it shows the transmission. This is what it shows the transmission of monetary policy, or the transmission to the lending rate. So the weighted average domestic term deposit rates, it's quite obvious guys, if the lending rates are decreasing, and if I am a bank, my lending rates are decreasing, and I want to generate the same value or the same percentage of profit in that particular scenario, undoubtedly if my selling price is decreasing, my lending rate is decreasing, I will decrease my deposit rates, I'll decrease my cost price so that I can obtain the same profit. So there has been a decline. For fresh deposits, rate of interest declined by 27 basis point, and for the outstanding deposits, it has declined by 1 basis point from February to April 2025. February जब पहली बार रेपो रेट को कट किया गया, और अप्रैल जब दूसरी बार रेपो रेट को कट किया गया. इन टोटल 50 बेसिस पॉइंट आपने रेपो रेट को कम किया, लेकिन उसकी वजह से जो लेंडिंग रेट्स कम हुए, दैट इज बाय 6 बेसिस पॉइंट एंड 17 बेसिस पॉइंट, और उसकी वजह से जो डिपॉजिट रेट्स कम हुए, दैट इज 27 बेसिस पॉइंट एंड 1 बेसिस पॉइंट. दिस डेटा इज वेरी 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 इंपॉर्टेंट. याद रख लेना, अगर क्वेश्चन आएगा यू हैव टू आंसर इट. दिस इज हाउ द थिंग्स हैव बीन. एज यू कैन सी, दिसंबर में these WACR they were pretty high, फिर धीरे धीरे decreased because of increase in liquidity. अब जैसे जैसे जनवरी से RBI ने मार्केट में लिक्विडिटी इंक्रीज की, डिमांड फॉर कॉल मनी डिक्रीजेस, डिमांड फॉर ओवरनाइट borrowing decreases, demand in the call money market decreases, which resulted in decrease in WACR, that is weighted average call money rate. So I hope what is weighted average call money rate, now this point is clear to you. I have explained you in much detail, even I have given you the entire notes on it, so you can just download the PDF and you can read it from these two slides, which will give you more clarity. Last but not the least is, in this RBI governor statement, he has mentioned that CRR will be decreased, and due to decrease in this CRR, RBI is decreasing the CRR by 1%. This 1% decrease in CRR will result in increase in liquidity in the market, and the liquidity in the market will increase by 2.5 lakh crore rupees. Why? The moment CRR decreases, lending capacity of the bank increases. Due to increase in lending capacity, loan in the market increases, money supply in the market increases, which results in increase in demand, increase in inflation rates. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गई कहानी. तो बात सिर्फ इतनी थी कि आरबीआई ने सीआरआर को कट कर दिया. अब उस सीआरआर का जो अनाउंसमेंट हुआ, उस अनाउंसमेंट के अराउंड गवर्नर ने क्या कहा, मैंने वो भी आपको कवर करके दे दिया. उसके अलावा अगर सीआरआर को कम किया जा रहा है, उसकी वजह से कितनी वैल्यू ऑफ लिक्विडिटी मार्केट में जनरेट होगी, सो दैट विल रिजल्ट इन 2.5 लाख करोड़ रुपीस बाय दिसंबर 2025. क्यों दिसंबर 2025? क्योंकि सर आप 4 इक्वल ट्रेंचेस में तो डिक्रीज करेंगे, 6 सितंबर, 4 अक्टूबर, 1 नवंबर, 29 नवंबर. तो 29 नवंबर के बाद एक्चुअल डिक्रीज वैल्यू आएगी, एंड दैट इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू बी 2.5 लाख करोड़ रुपीस ऑफ इंक्रीज इन लिक्विडिटी इन द मार्केट. डन हो गया जी, चले आगे. सो दिस इज समथिंग which is important for your data bank. I hope जिन स्टूडेंट्स ने मेरे साथ one-on-one mentorship सेशन में कनेक्ट किया है, मैंने उन्हें कहा था you have to keep a data bank. तो जो लोग वो डेटा बैंक मेंटेन कर रहे हैं, उनके डेटा बैंक के लिए ये एक डेटा लेकर आया हूँ, which will be very helpful for them while answering the descriptive question, or this data can also be asked. Probability is low, but yes, this data can be asked in the MCQ format as well. So what is the news? If lending rate got so low, then why FDI fallen suddenly? If lending rate, एक सेकेंड, क्या क्वेश्चन है? Let me read the question. If lending rate gotten so low, then why FDI fallen suddenly? ठीक है, गौरांग इसका आंसर दे देता हूँ. The answer to this particular question is the moment lending rates in the country started decreasing. Not only this, before the decrease in lending rates in the country, the rates have been revised by Federal Reserve. Due to the rate revision done by Federal Reserve, due to the geopolitical tensions which are prevailing, due to the trade war which is existing in the economy, every investor who is investing outside its own land wants to disinvest from the other nations in order to consolidate the funds into its own economy, to avoid geopolitical tensions, to avoid trade wars, to avoid uncertainty which is going around the globe. So it's better अपना पैसा डॉलर में रखो rather than अपना पैसा इन्वेस्ट करने में इंडिया में. जब आपने अपने पैसे को इंडिया में इन्वेस्ट किया, its value will be impacted due to the depreciation or appreciation of the Indian currency. तो उन सारी चीजों की वजह से फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट ही नहीं, फॉरेन पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टमेंट भी कम हुई है. दैट इज नॉट बिकॉज आरबीआई हैज डिक्रीज द रेट्स, इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द इंटरनेशनल सिनेरियोस. पहला पॉइंट. अब जैसे आरबीआई ने रेट्स को कम किया, अब रेट्स के कम होने से क्या होगा, मार्केट में मनी सप्लाई इंक्रीज होगी, और इसकी वजह से अब डिमांड बढ़ेगी, और डिमांड की बढ़ने की वजह से अब तो ग्रोथ बढ़ेगी. तो नाउ वी विल बी एक्सपेक्टिंग इंक्रीज इन फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. अभी तो चेंज हुआ है, अभी तो आरबीआई ने अनाउंस किया है इन द लेटेस्ट मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी, बट वी आर एक्सपेक्टिंग in few weeks that foreign investment is going to increase because of increase in expectation of demand and growth from the Indian economy. Gurang, ठीक है, clear हो गया? If it is clear, just give me yes sir, so that I can move ahead. Moving on to the next point. What does the next point says? So recently, as per the data which has been shared in the RBI annual report 2024-25, RBI has took enforcement action against regulated entities and imposed 353 penalties of value 54.78 crore rupees in the financial year 2024-25. So यहाँ पे अगर आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछा जाए, what is the total value of penalty charged by RBI on its regulated entities, then the value is 54.78 crore rupees, and this penalty has been imposed on how many regulated entities? So that is 353. Out of these regulated entities, highest number is backed by which organizations? So my answer would be, sir, highest number as of this 264 penalties were imposed only and only on cooperative banks. 264 penalties on cooperative banks, then 37 penalties on NBFC. क्योंकि अगर मैं आपको ये डेटा नहीं बताता ना, तो मेजॉरिटी लोग यही सोचते हैं कि सबसे ज्यादा जो पेनल्टी आरबीआई ने चार्ज की होगी वो NBFCs पे चार्ज की होगी, but that is not true. The highest number of penalties have been charged on the cooperative banks, then NBFCs, then we have the banking sector. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गया, याद रहेगा ये डेटा, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड दिस पेनल्टी विच वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट, विच वी आर डिस्कसिंग अबाउट, these penalties are basically charged for what all reasons? So these are basically charged for not fulfilling the compliances related to cyber security framework or exposure to IRAC norms, or know your customer directions were not fulfilled, fraud classification and reporting directions were not fulfilled, reporting information on CRILC is not done properly, submission of credit information to credit information companies is not done appropriately. So on these particular grounds, penalties have been charged. So what is the total count? What is the total number? Highest penalties have been charged on cooperative banks. Do the penalties have been charged on foreign banks? Yes sir, 6 foreign banks, they have been exposed to the penalties charged by RBI. ठीक है जी, सिंपल न्यूज है, इसमें नथिंग टू वरी अबाउट. याद रख लेना, फेज 1 में डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन आया तो याद आप आंसर कर पाएंगे, वरना कहीं ना कहीं डिस्क्रिप्टिव क्वेश्चन को लिखते समय ये डेटा आप यूटिलाइज कर पाएंगे, विच इज इंपॉर्टेंट. नाउ मूविंग ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. व्हाट डज द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट सेज? गाइस, उम्मीद करता हूं कि आप सब ने एक टर्म सुनी होगी, DICGC, दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट, दैट इज डिपॉजिट इंश्योरेंस क्रेडिट गारंटी कॉर्पोरेशन. अगर मुझसे कोई पूछता है कि व्हाट इज दिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑल अबाउट, देन आई वुड से सर इट इज बेसिकली द होली ओन्ड सब्सिडरी ऑफ RBI, which is known as Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation. Actually में पहले दो different organizations थी. One was DIC, other one was Credit Guarantee Corporation. Then they both were merged and the act was also revised, amended, और ये बन गया DICGC Act 1961. इस एक्ट के तहत RBI की ये जो wholly owned subsidiary है, this wholly owned subsidiary is responsible to ensure, it is responsible to ensure public deposits with the banks. Now you must be wondering कौन से banks की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ? Guys, I am talking about scheduled banks. I am talking about scheduled banks, which include private banks, foreign banks, public sector banks, RRBs. It includes cooperative banks, local area banks. In cooperative banks, I'm talking about state as well as district or central as well as urban cooperative bank. They all are included under this particular act, that is DICGC Act 1961. As per this particular act, it is stated that the bank which we are talking about, the number of banks which I am talking about, these all banks, they are responsible these all banks, they are responsible. These all banks, they are responsible to get public deposit insured, to get their public deposit insured, which also include payment banks, small finance banks. So all these banks, they are asked by RBI to get their public deposit insured with DICGC. That means it is the bank's duty to get their deposit insured with DICGC, and against this deposit, scheduled banks or the banks list which I have given you, they are responsible to pay the premium. Now the question is, so what is the premium paid? If I talk about the premium value, earlier the premium value was pretty low. But over the period of time, this premium value has increased. And if I talk about the premium value, how it operates, what premium value is charged right now. So I would say when this act was introduced, at that particular moment, premium value was pretty low, but over the period of time, this premium value has been increased, and as per the latest update, the premium value which has been set by DICGC, which is supposed to be paid by the scheduled bank, it is 12 paisa for 100 rupees, or I can say it as 0.12% of deposit, and this premium is paid on half yearly basis. Is this point clear? Now what I'm trying to say, let's suppose the deposits is 100. On an average, the 6 months deposit in your saving account is 100 rupees. So on this 100 rupees, 0.12%, which means 12 paisa premium is supposed to be paid by the bank to DICGC. But DICGC in this case provide insurance up to 5 lakh rupees per individual per bank. If your deposit is more than 5 lakh rupees and even it is in different accounts, then also I don't care how many accounts you are holding in a bank. In one bank, one individual is insured, or one individual's deposit is insured up to 5 lakh only. अगर आपके अकाउंट में 10 लाख है या 10 अकाउंटों में 10 लाख है, 1-1 लाख करके, तो भी आपको कितना पैसा मिलेगा? 5 लाख ही मिलेगा. Your deposit up to 5 lakh is insured. Along with this, one more point. So these deposits are insured under which condition? So these deposits are insured under conditions like if bank witnesses any kind of loss due to natural disaster, or if bank witness any kind of loss due to accident, maybe fire, maybe robbery, or bank license is cancelled by RBI, or bank fails, bank is declared insolvent, bank is declared bankrupt, bank is bank run. So in that particular case, depositors should not worry, because out of their total deposit value, they will be capable to receive 5 lakh rupees per individual per bank, and this 5 lakh includes the principal as well as interest. Is this point clear, guys? एक point जो मैंने स्क्रीन पे लिखा है, I hope that is clear. Say yes or no. DICGC का पूरा रोल समझ आ गया? Who get the insurance? So bank get your deposits insured from DICGC, because banks are utilizing your deposits, so they are responsible to get it insured. Lastly, the last point which is important in this discussion is, what is the deposit value? So the deposit limit is up to 5 lakh rupees per individual per bank. ठीक है जी. अब जो मैं डेटा आपके साथ शेयर करूंगा, I can assure you that you will be very clear with that particular data. So the first point says, one second guys, मैं ना थोड़ा स्लाइड का स्ट्रक्चर चेंज कर देता हूँ, so that you can utilize this particular data for future references. Chalo, let's move on to the next slide only. So insured deposits. So the first point in this discussion is insured deposits in India increased by 7.11% on year basis. So if I talk about the insured deposits means I'm not talking about the deposit accounts. So I'm saying insured deposit value has increased to 96.7 lakh crore rupees, and this has increased by 7.11% as of 30th September 2024 according to the RBI's annual statement. The increase was up from 90.32. So earlier the total deposits which were insured are 90.32. Now it has increased to 96.7 lakh crores. What is the increase in deposit value or increase in deposit insured value? So that is 7.11%. Remember that the number of fully insured deposit accounts which fall within 5 lakh insurance coverage limit stood at 286.9 crore, which means accounting for 97.7% of the total accounts. So what does it say? It says that out of the total accounts in the banks, 97.7% of accounts are 100% insured, which means out of total number of deposit accounts, 97.7% out of total number of deposit accounts, 97.7% of deposits are holding a deposit value or holding a deposit of up to 5 lakh rupees. क्योंकि अगर डिपॉजिट 5 लाख है या उससे कम है तभी तो वो सारे का सारा अमाउंट इंश्योर्ड है. अगर डिपॉजिट 5 लाख से ज्यादा होगा तो 100% इंश्योरेंस होगा ही नहीं. 100% insurance होगा ही नहीं. This is the first point. Second point is this figure is marginally lower. Last year this percentage was 97.9%, but this year the percentage is 97.7%. That is nothing to worry. What is important, please pay attention. Insured amount itself constituted 46.3% of the accessible deposit, which has fell down from 47.5% of the previous year deposit. So what does it? It says, sir, अगर आप insured amount की बात करेंगे, if you are talking about the insured amount, sir, insured amount is 46.3% of total deposit value. समझ आई ये बात? इसका मतलब क्या हुआ सर? भले ही, इसका मतलब ये है कि सर भले ही इंडिया में 97.7% of total accounts are insured, which means out of 100, 97% of accounts are holding deposits of value up to 5 lakhs. But in terms of total deposit value, only 46.3% of total deposit value is insured. तो इसका मतलब जो बाकी बचे accounts हैं, they have a huge value of deposits, जिसकी वजह से total deposit का जो criteria that is somewhat different. The next point is deposit insurance fund, which act as a reserve to pay out the insured sum. So what is this deposit insured fund? So this deposit insurance fund is the fund which is managed by DICGC, out of which DICGC pay back the claims in case of bank failures. So this deposit insurance fund has increased by 15.2% from 2.29 lakh crores in March 2025, which was earlier 1.98 lakh crore in the last year. The reserve ratio, which is the DIF as a percentage of insured deposit. So DIF divided by insured deposit, this ratio is 2.21%, which was earlier, or this ratio is 2.21%, which was earlier 2.02%. तो इसका मतलब जो आपका deposit insurance fund है, the deposit insurance fund, the fund which you have, out of which as a DICGC you will be paying the claims. अगर उसे आप divide करेंगे आपकी insured deposit से, total deposit से नहीं, insured deposit से, then it is 2.21%, which is a good number. Over the financial year, DICGC has collected around 26,000 crore rupees as an insurance premium, which has also registered a growth. Remember this data. RBI meanwhile has acknowledged last year the need to review. RBI has already raised this request कि सर यहाँ पे अब जरूरत है इस लिमिट को रिव्यू करने की, क्योंकि इस लिमिट की मदद से undoubtedly government and RBI is in a position to ensure majority number of accounts, but still the amount which is insured, so that is just 46% of the total deposit amount, which is a point to worry, which we need to keep in mind. Is this point clear? Is this point clear? मुझे लगता है कि ये news बिल्कुल clear होगी. So this is full of data and the desired content related to this particular data has been shared. The concept related to DICGC, I think it is absolutely clear to you. The last news of the day, it talks about a very small information which I would like to share with you, and that is SBI. And that is basically SBI. So SBI was in news recently, and what was the news? Sir, SBI has charged a fine of 25 lakh rupees on multi-commodity exchange. So multi-commodity exchange of India has been charged with a fine of 63 lakh rupees for inadequate disclosure regarding the payment to 63 Moon Technologies, so which is a software service company. So this software service company has provided the services to MCX, but MCX has not shared the actual details, or it has not disclosed the actual details regarding the services which they have utilized, and on that particular basis penalty has been charged of 25 lakh rupees by multi-commodity exchange, and multi-commodity exchange has been asked to pay this penalty within 45 days. Clear है जी? चलो अगले क्वेश्चन की ओर बढ़ते हैं. अगली न्यूज है, अडानी एयरपोर्ट रेज्ड $750 million via ECB. So out of this particular news, two things are important. First is Adani Airport raised $750 million. This will be important for RBI phase 1, and even it will help you in your different bank exams. But ये जो concept है, this is very important. You can have a direct or indirect question on external commercial borrowings. So as I always do, पहले हम बात करेंगे ECB क्या है. After discussing what is ECB, then I will be coming back and I will be discussing the news. So what is external commercial borrowing? Sir, external commercial borrowing का मतलब क्या है? The meaning of external commercial borrowing is, so when the Indian entities, that means an individual or maybe a company or maybe a firm, any individual entity, if it borrow funds from a foreign entity. Now this foreign entity can be an individual, it can be a company, it can be a firm, it can be a bank, it can be international organization. So whenever the borrowing is done by the Indian entity from the foreign entity, that particular borrowing is known as external commercial borrowing. External commercial borrowing refers to the loan which are availed by Indian entity from non-resident lenders with minimum average maturity. Now the question is, so what is this minimum average maturity over here? Is there any condition? Do we have any condition that with this minimum maturity only we will be terming it as external commercial borrowing? So this is your homework. So your homework is what is the minimum average maturity of ECB. Minimum average maturity of ECB. This is the first thing which you need to remember. You need to give me the answer in the comment section. So it includes what? So it includes loan from the commercial banks, it includes loan from the suppliers, it includes loan from the buyer, even the credit from buyer and seller For example, what I'm trying to say over here, this entity is an importer. This entity is an importer, and this entity has imported goods from foreign entity in US, and rather than making the payment, this entity came up with an invoice signed that I will be making your payment with interest after 3 months. So this will also be termed as external commercial borrowing. That means you have purchased the goods on credit. You have purchased the goods on credit. Then securitized instruments such as floating rate notes, fixed rate bonds, they all are the part of the same. You can borrow from the official credit agencies, you can borrow from commercial banks, you can borrow from private windows, even you can borrow from the multilateral financial institutions like ADB, Indian Finance Corporations, International Finance Corporation. They all are included in the category of external commercial borrowing, but this talks about only and only the borrowing done by Indian entity. The moment I say borrowing done by Indian entity, it means Indian individuals, companies, firms, even I include the privately owned companies, even I include the government owned companies like PSUs, they are also included under the same category. Now, moving on to the next part. And the next part is again really very important. What does the next point says? Please pay attention. The next point says there are certain restrictions. What are the restrictions? So they cannot be used for investment in stock market or speculation in real estate, which means if you are borrowing under the category of external commercial borrowings, that amount cannot be utilized by the borrower to invest in stock exchange. You cannot use that amount to invest in the real estate market. Along with that, what is the minimum maturity? So the minimum maturity in this case is 3 years. The minimum maturity is, the minimum average maturity of such loan is 3 years. You need to remember this. They can be raised in foreign currency, and even you can borrow from Indian rupees. So how you can borrow in Indian rupees? What is that? What is the answer to this particular question? The answer to this particular question is again very easy. कैसे? अब मान लो Russia, you are borrowing from a Russian bank. Let's suppose you are borrowing from a Russian bank, और उस Russian bank के पास they have the Indian rupees. So you can borrow from the Russian bank in Indian rupees as well. That will also be included under the category of external commercial borrowings. ठीक है जी. Last but not the least, the Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, Government of India and RBI, they all are responsible for assessing the external commercial borrowings. It can be accessed through automatic route as well as it can be accessed through the government route. That means ECB, which means you are allowed to borrow the funds through automatic route without RBI or without government pre-approval. But in case of approval route, you need government approval before you are allowed to borrow the funds. What are the benefits? So it is a cheaper source of funds. Foreign currency needed to cover the cost such as importing machinery and paying supplier. It helps in borrowing large volume of funds which is available for long term. There are certain issues. What are the issues? First issue is foreign liability increases. First issue is obviously foreign liability increases. What I mean with the term foreign liability? So foreign liability basically means if we are borrowing the funds from the foreign nations, from the foreign entities, it results in increase in liability of the foreign individual or foreign parties on the Indian entities. Secondly, this increases the external debt on the country as this loan is available. So foreign liability increases plus it is available on cheaper rate, and due to cheaper rate, huge borrowing is done. Due to cheaper rate, huge borrowings is done, and due to this huge borrowings or high volume or value of borrowings, that will result in increase in issues related to the solvency scenario. So availability of fund is at cheaper rate. Obviously the borrowings will This borrowing will bring a relaxed attitude. We call it as lax attitude among the Indian companies, and which will result in excessive borrowing. So this may eventually result in higher debt on the balance sheet. Higher debt on the company's balance sheet will result in a possible downgrade rating of the company by the rating agency. Company may have to incur hedging cost in order to cut down the exchange rate risk. It will also increase in such borrowings is accompanied by an increase in currency exchange rate risk, as well as the depreciation of the currency risk on the company. So these are the issues which prevail with respect to the external commercial borrowings. Now, a very important data which you need to remember. This is the data from RBI annual report. It says that net inflows under the external commercial borrowings to India was $18.7 billion during 2024-25 as compared to $3.6 billion a year ago. So as you can see, from 3.6 billion it has increased to $18.7 billion. It is net inflow. Net inflow means external commercial borrowings is flowing. What value is actually flowing in? If I talk about alone April month, in the month of April 2025, net external commercial borrowing to India has increased to $2.8 billion from $0.5 billion. Now, what is the point which you need to remember over here? So here you need to remember a point which is really very important. It says that, so these net inflows are increasing. If this net inflow is increasing, this external commercial borrowing is increasing, liability is increasing. It shows that India is borrowing huge loans because of cheaper loans available outside India, and these borrowings will be utilized in order to increase the supply, which will push the growth of the economy. So if it is done in an appropriate, in a controlled manner, it's fine. Otherwise, it will result in increase in liabilities on the organization. I hope the point is clear till now. We are good to go. Let's move on to the news now. So what is the news over here? So the news says Adani Airport Holdings Limited has raised $750 million, around 6,250 crore rupees, through external commercial borrowings from consortium of international banks. What is this consortium of international banks? It basically means when group of banks they come together to lend to a single borrower, and this is generally witnessed in case of huge lending done. So here the single borrower is Adani Airport Holdings Limited, and if I talk about the consortium, it includes first Abu Dhabi Bank, which is the lead bank, which is based in Abu Dhabi, then Barclays, then we have Standard Chartered Bank. So first Abu Dhabi Bank, Barclays Bank, and the last one is Standard Chartered Bank. These are the three banks which are providing loan. The loan was secured at an interest rate of 7.5%. Company plans to utilize the funds to refinance existing 400 million debts. So first company will repay the existing 400 million debts out of this loan, and rest of the loan will be utilized for the development of or for the expansion of their business. For the development or expansion of their business. ठीक है जी, अब आ गया मेरा क्वेश्चन जो आप लोगों ने ऑलरेडी चैट बॉक्स में पूछ रखा है. दैट इज द क्वेश्चन आई वांट टू आस्क फ्रॉम यू. एज पर द न्यू regime, I'll come up in this manner. As per, please pay attention, RBI new relaxed framework 2020, as per the RBI new relaxed framework for ECB external commercial borrowings, what is the borrowing limit? What is the borrowing limit under automatic route? What is the borrowing limit under automatic route per financial year per borrower. Are you getting my question? Are you getting my question? So the options are $750 million, $1.5 billion, $500 million, $1 billion. Okay, so this is what you need to give me the answer in the comment section. So borrowing limit under the automatic route per financial year. So I'm talking about the borrowing limit per financial year. Done, guys? Can I expect the answer from you all in the comment section? Okay. So I guess that will be all from my side in this particular session. We'll catch you in the next session to go. Till then, guys, don't forget to revise the content which we have just discussed. And if you have any doubt, you can ask me in the next session. And even those who are going to watch this session in the recorded format, they can ask their doubts in the comment section below. Along with that, guys, one more thing which I would like to discuss with you is, as you all know that I have removed that revision part because the session was a bit lengthy, but I was getting some messages in the comment section that, sir, you should start the revision part. So I need your reply. Should I start the revision part? Yes or no? Do reply in the comment section. Secondly, the second question is, as I was discussing earlier, the descriptive expected question. Should I continue? Yes or no? And lastly, handwritten notes, as I promised. So I think handwritten notes will be effective after notification. Say yes or no. So do share your views on these three questions, and on the basis of majority, I'll take the decision. If you'll say no, sir, we need the handwritten notes today, I'll start providing you from the coming week onwards. If you want me to discuss the descriptive questions, I will be coming up in this manner. If you want me to start with the revision session, I will be coming up with the same manner. So don't forget to reply in the comment section. After your all comments, then only I will be taking up the decision what to do, what not to do in this context. Thank you so much for joining. We'll catch you in the next session. Bye bye. Take care. Good luck. God bless you.